Well, it's not Christmas time, but I'm going to get a present today. And when I get presents, our viewers get presents too in our little corner. We're here toward the end of April in 2001, and we're in what would many people remember as the old Social Security building on Elm Street in Plattsburgh. It's now the Senior Citizens Council of Clinton County. And I've been tracking this young fella for years, wanting to get an interview with him for this program called Our Little Corner, and we finally arranged it. Dr. Dittmar and his wife Mary are with us today. Ditt, how are you?
I'm fine. I'm all ready to go. You just tell me what you want to know.
I'll tell you that 1 hour ago I had a telephone conversation with a former patient of yours, Frank Stelzer.
Oh, really?
Down in Burlington, North Carolina.
I wondered whatever happened to him.
As some of our viewers might know, Frank Stelzer did many things, including run a service station with his brother.
Right.
He was the mayor of the city of Plattsburgh some time back.
That's right.
Then he went to work for WIRY radio station as a time salesperson. And then we purchased a radio station in Burlington, North Carolina, and he went there to manage that station. He retired from that business and went into another business and is now retired, except that he does have a Saturday job, he told me. He's the starter at a golf course, so he gets things going early on a Saturday morning, and by virtue of doing that, he plays golf for free. So Frank was always very good at arranging things for his own behalf.
That's right.
His reason for calling me was to give me more information on the origin of Fox Hill. We've been doing some interviews and some columns in the Press Republican locally on how Fox Hill got its name, but mostly we've just been getting some great family histories and some good stories from people, and that's been an awful lot of fun over the last several weeks. So Frank called to add his 2 cents, and I said, guess where I'm going at 1 o'clock today? He said, where? I said, to interview Dittmar. He said, oh, Dittmar. He said, say hello for me. He was my dentist for years. And I said, nothing ever fell out? He said, no. He said, they're still there. He said, and make sure you ask Ditt about UFOs.
Yeah, we were in on that too.
Well, that was, boy, that big kick was going on here in the 50s, right?
Yeah, I think
so.
The
50s and early 60s. And when I landed here to work in the radio business in 1961, lots of people were into the UFO things.
Yep.
And in the evening, I've seen photographs of people with their lawn chairs down along the lake, scanning the skies.
I don't think they ever found any or saw any.
Well, how did you get involved in that thing?
Gosh, I don't remember exactly.
Just seemed like the right thing to do.
It just seemed like something interesting to work on, and it never really came with anything.
I don't know how Frank remembered that, but that's what he remembered. Dittmar and UFOs. Before we even begin talking about all the delicious things we have on this table to share with folks, I want to find out a little bit about where you were born and brought up.
Well, I was born on Long Island and brought up there, so to speak. And when I graduated from high school, I went to Hobart College out in Geneva. Yeah. And later on, I went to dental school at Columbia. And rode the A train every morning.
Oh, boy.
And you know, people don't know what the A train was. But
well, you can tell everybody.
Right, it's a subway train. Once I saw on TV, they were playing Take the A train, and then they were showing a picture of a steam train in the background.
Duke Ellington wouldn't have approved of that, would he?
I'm sure he wouldn't have, no. Well, anyway, I interned at Albany Hospital, and I met Mary. She lived in Albany at the time. She had been a long-time resident of Saranac Lake, but she and her sister and her mother moved to Albany, and there was an Adirondack Mountain Club meeting, and I talked to a person named Grace Hudowalski. Maybe you've heard of her.
Oh, Grace is still around, isn't she?
Well, she's in a nursing home, but she's
up until very recently, she was doing most of the correspondence, wasn't she?
Yes, she was. Yeah, but she has retired from that.
Isn't
and she's
that
in a
amazing?
Retirement home. But anyway,
so she's the one that got you cooking.
Well, she invited me to the ADK meeting and introduced me to Helen and Mary, and went from there on.
Well, you were a dentist for how many years?
I believe around, let's see, I came in 1947 and ended up in 88.
Wow.
So that's about 40 some years.
Oh, that's delicious. But you were always interested in hiking, weren't you?
Yes.
The outdoors.
Our lives were wrapped right up in hiking and climbing the 46 major peaks of the Adirondacks. Mary finished them ahead of me by 3 years. She is the 29th person to record that she has climbed the 46 peaks.
What a wonderful...
And I'm the next one, actually, number 31. She had a partner that got number 30, and they went up together. But 3 years later, I was the only one that completed in that year, and so I'm number 31. But now there's over 4,600.
4,600 have done the 46 peaks?
That's right, yeah.
And believe me, folks, it's a little easier to do the 46 peaks today than it was back in the 1940s.
I'm
right,
sure,
Ditt?
I am absolutely sure of that. There were no trails up 20 of the mountains.
Think about that.
We had to use the map and compass and follow streams, and that was it. We'd find them sometimes we wouldn't, we'd have to come back.
Obviously, you made it out every time, or you wouldn't be sitting here with us today.
Well, I can remember 5 times I didn't make it out that day. We stayed overnight with no idea that we were going to do that, so we had nothing to go along with, but we made it.
Boy, talk about a hardy bunch. Survivors you are, right?
Survivors, yeah.
Well, I don't think many of our viewers are aware of your long-time association with the Adirondack Mountain Club and all the things you did over the years. So let's just talk about that association.
Well, I'm more interested in the Adirondack 46ers. That's not the Adirondack Mountain Club.
Okay.
It's a specific.
The 46ers, then. Go ahead.
Well, anyway, I've been the treasurer up until now. I'm retiring now, and that's 52 years, I guess.
What a wonderful record. 52 years.
Yeah.
It just rolls off his tongue like it's nothing. It's wonderful.
In 1948 is when the organization took place of the Adirondack 46ers, and I was the treasurer appointed in that meeting, and I've been there ever since.
Your figures must have been pretty good, Ditt.
Well, I guess so. We seem to have managed, and we've done a lot of things. We've gotten all sorts of things for the 46ers, like the book and patches and T-shirts and you name it. We've had it. Yep.
How many members would you say there are now?
Well, I told you that
46,000?
4,600.
4,600, I mean?
Yeah. But of course, they're not all alive anymore. I think we've lost at least 150 that we know of. And some have dropped out, but there's about 3,000 we call active because they pay dues every year and go to meetings. So there's about 3,000 around.
That's wonderful. We're going to stop just to pause for a moment to make sure we've actually been talking on the tape, and then we're going to pick it up again with Dr. Dittmar. We're pretty proud of this Adirondack region, you and me and everybody else who's ever visited here, and the folks who don't live here anymore wish they could come back.
Right.
Because I know you've traveled far and wide. You and Mary have been across this country, I don't know how many times, do you?
About 10 times.
About 10 times.
Yeah.
We got your little newsletters every year about where you went and all your escapades and the fun things you did. But when you come back home, you're hard put to find a more beautiful place than this Adirondack region.
It's the best place to be, and I think it's the safest. We don't have the big tornadoes and the big floods that they have in a lot of other places, and the fires and everything. I think this is a great place to be.
Well, you've had your home in West Plattsburgh for how long?
Well, we moved here in 1957, I think it was. We were in Osable Forks from 47. And so we've been here ever since, out at West Plattsburgh. It's the little red house across the street from the store on Route 3, except now it's not red.
I know, isn't that amazing?
We put siding on it, now it's off-white.
A lot of little communities have great history. Your little area had great history up there. West Plattsburgh, a lot of famous families that date back to the time of the Battle of Plattsburgh and the War of 1812.
Yep.
It's a nice area, all the way up through to Rand Hill and Jericho and through the town of Altona.
Sure.
Nice country.
I love it here, and I don't want to leave.
You, what was the first mountain you ever climbed?
I think it was Santanoni, or it might have been Mount Marcy. You're talking about the Adirondack Mountains, yeah. Either Mount Marcy or Santanoni. And then, I'm not sure what the order was, but done them 6 times.
You're entitled to forget after climbing the 46 mountains of the Adirondack region 6 times.
And Mary's done them 4.
That's pretty amazing and fantastic. Of course, it would be impossible for us without, even though you were the treasurer for all those years, it would be impossible for us to count the steps or the miles uphill and downhill that you've traveled. But believe me, it's more than the average bear.
Well, I guess you're right. Incidentally, we have 5 children. They all became 46s as well. That's how we accomplished it so many times. We'd go up with certain ones, and then the others would start to grow up enough to do them. We'd take them up again, and
I
so on.
would say it was in their genes, wouldn't you?
There probably was. We'll probably discover that one of these days.
How many of them live around here now?
Well, there's 2 well, there's only 1 in the Syracuse region. Nobody's up here anymore. Got 1 in state of Washington and 2 in Florida. Unfortunately, we lost Jim. He was also from around the Syracuse area.
What a great family, and everybody loves the out of doors. It's hard for me, living on the Saranac River as I do, and seeing a little slice of wildlife most mornings when I'm out looking out the window on the back deck. It's hard for me to believe that some people don't like to get out and commune with nature, as they say.
Well, they better get out and they'll find it's worthwhile doing.
And it's healthy. Look at you. You're a spring chicken now. How old are you going to be this year?
Well, I am already 86 this year.
You made it. You're counting on the next one now.
Yeah, now we're counting on
Why is
86.
it that they go by too fast as you grow older, Ditt?
I don't know. I don't know what happened in the last 2 years. They just went like lightning.
They have a habit of doing that as you grow older.
Yep.
In your travels, not only as a dentist, you've touched a lot of lives, and I'm sure many of your old patients, like Frank Stelzer, will get back in touch with you every now and again.
Yeah.
So you amassed a whole different set of stories as a dentist, right?
Well, I suppose so. During the summer, we're up at our camp in Silver Lake, and then we go to the senior center most of the time in Osable Forks. And the ladies that are and men that are in there, I remember you took care of my children, and one thing after another. So we see those people a lot.
Pleasant memories.
Yep.
Ditt and I first started talking quite a bit when I was on the radio and ran a Sunday morning program called A Sunday of Solid Gold.
Yep.
A title that I came up with many, many years ago, and what it meant was just several hours of just remembering the old music, a lot of big band music,
That's
a lot
right.
of jazz and swing music from the 20s and 30s and 40s.
You don't know how much I long for that. It's too bad that you're not on it anymore.
You're very kind to say it, and I have in my collection some very neat tunes that you gave me.
Well, it could be. I don't remember exactly, but I guess so.
You gave me some nice tapes, and I was listening to public radio last night, modern pianists playing the whole repertoire of Fats Waller.
Is that right?
And he was, like Louis Armstrong, Fats Waller was an idol of mine, another one of those overworked musicians that just burned their lives out at a young age, but wow.
My feet's too big.
Oh, my feet's too big. Ain't misbehaving.
That's right.
And so many other great tunes.
You certainly
And to
did.
listen to these modern jazz pianists interpret the Fats Waller stuff, just great.
Yeah.
But music has always been a big part of your life too, hasn't it?
Yes, I've played the violin. I've been in Angie LaMariana's symphony orchestra for I guess it was
Plattsburgh Community Orchestra.
That's right, and that, yeah. So I enjoyed that while we were doing it for about, I guess, about 15, 16 years, something like that.
Isn't that great? And this morning in my conversation, this morning being whatever date this is, April 24th, am I close to the right date, Calvin?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Frank Stelzer has always been a musician, and he's been involved with several large and small orchestras since he's been down south, too, and he still plays, and that's just wonderful to be associated with music, both in appreciating it, but in also performing it. It's very rewarding.
I wish I could still do it.
Well,
My fingers don't do it anymore.
Like I said, the memories are still there.
That's what it is, yep.
But nature has a way of playing its own kind of music, doesn't it, Ditt?
I suppose so. In what way now?
Well, you know, when you're out there, we talk about the harmony of nature, getting down to the basics and listening to the birds and their various songs, and the trees creaking and the winds blowing, the flaps on your tent, if you were lucky enough to have a tent when you were in the woods. So you camped overnight in the Adirondacks. Let me see, what would be the first year?
First year?
When you maybe stayed overnight in the Adirondack region.
See. Oh, probably in the late 30s, around 1938 maybe.
You know, we think of going out into the woods as being a solitary thing. But very often when you did your climbing and walking and camping in the woods, you were with other people. And there's a certain camaraderie among people who love nature, right?
Yes. Now we went to the Adirondacks. That is, I first went to the Adirondacks after hearing about the mountains they had up here from my brother. He was a student at Dartmouth, and the Dartmouth Outing Club introduced him to the Adirondacks. And so I went up to the Adirondacks with him, and ever since I just wanted to go back and do some more. And so that's the way it went.
It's just as simple as that. And in when you did your mountain climbing, how much stuff did you carry with you, generally?
Well, of course, you had to take your sleeping bag and whatever food you wanted to use. You had to work it out very carefully so that you didn't have too much, because you had to carry it yourself. But that's about it. Your food and your bedding and certain amounts of clothing along with it.
What kind of a backpack did you use?
Well, one time in the beginning, I used a pack basket, and you'll see a picture of our young son that when he was 1 year old, we took him into Lake Colden, and he was in the pack basket.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you'll see a picture of it here. We've got a bunch of pictures here that Gordy will be looking over after a while, and you'll see that.
Well, nowadays, of course, with all the freeze-dried food and the special clothing that they have, things have changed a lot in that respect with technology.
Right. We didn't have very much of that. We made pots out of tin cans. You take a piece of baling wire and 2 holes in it, and you made a handle, and it hung that over the fire or supported it one way or another, and we had enough different sizes so one would fit into the other, and it had maybe half a dozen different cooking utensils.
All nested together.
Yeah, all nested
now
together.
You can buy them ready-made that way.
That's right.
You always carried a compass.
Oh, a compass and a map. You couldn't get along without a compass and a map, and so you certainly did.
So did you always take a map of the region you were going into, or did you take more than one map with you each time?
Well, the Adirondacks is mostly on 2 quadrangles, and so we always have them with us.
And now I'm sure the maps are even better than they were back then, right?
Well, the Adirondack Mountain Club put 2 of them together, the 2 I'm talking about, and they put it with their guidebook.
Oh, they did?
Yes, and that goes with the guidebook. Yep.
Well, I bet you wrote a few chapters to guidebooks in your years.
I think I really did, but...
Well, I bet you your experiences lent themselves to other people who wrote about the Adirondacks, because I know I've seen your name mentioned And I don't know how many books. How many books do you think have your name in it?
I don't know. I
Well,
know a few.
A few. I just read a book, the most recent book I read about a guy who was known as the Hermit of the Adirondacks, Noah John Rondo,
Right.
called Life with Noah. And this book, probably the latest book written about Noah John, right?
Yes, it is. That's the latest. There's only been 2 books about him, and of course, there are a lot of articles in magazines and whatever.
And a most interesting character in this book says the stories and adventures of Richard Smith with Noah John Rondo, written by William J. O'Hearn. The reason I mention that first is because it's the most recent, and Richard spent time with Noah John, off and on, for a few years.
Yes, he did.
And he knew him right until his old age, and Noah John Rondo died in the early 60s, as I recall.
Somewhere in there. I think he was 84. And he's buried up there in Lake Placid somewhere, or was it Saranac Lake?
I think in Lake Placid.
Yeah,
I think you're right. Absolutely. Well, let's start there, because we got some great pictures of Noah John Rondo. How did you happen to meet up with this guy?
Well, I was a counselor at a camp, and we decided we'd take a canoe trip. And so he was ahead of the trip, and I was the second counselor, and we had about, I think, half a dozen campers with us. And he apparently knew Noah Rondo. He had been in there to see him, and we were taking the Fulton chain of lakes. So we started at Old Forge, and we went up through the various lakes, up through Long Lake, and finally into the Racket River. And in a mile up the river, the Cold River comes into the Racket. That's where we stopped, cached our canoes, and we hiked up 6 miles up the Cold River to Rondo's camp. He called it the city, one with a population of 1, and he was the mayor. Well, anyway, Rondo wasn't at home. We saw where he had a fire. It was still smoldering a little bit. We knew he was around somewhere, so we waited and waited. He never did come. But I was fascinated by what I saw there. He had wigwams. He built the wigwams.
He had quite a little city, didn't he, huh?
He did. He had about 3 wigwams and 2 small cabins. And so I made it a point that later on I would come back and find him. So I did. And he was home the next time I arrived there. And from there on, we've made several, we made a number of trips. In fact, I even stayed in there one full week while we made a pack basket. And making it means you start from scratch. We cut a tree. It had to be a brown ash growing in a swamp.
Ash, yep.
And what one does is one peels the bark and then pounds it, and you get the strips. The yearly growths peel up, and
each ring would.
Yes, and you put some slices in longitudinal slices in the log, so that they come out the width of the strips that you need. And then you weave the pack basket. Well, anyway, I might tell you a little side story on that. I met Mary in Albany when I was interning there in the Albany Hospital. And the interns were supposed to stay overnight in their dorm. Well, I was in the dorm with the medical interns, but I found the fire escape.
I should have known.
So I went down the fire escape every night to go over and visit Mary, and then I came back and went up the fire escape.
It makes
to bed.
perfect sense to me.
Yeah. But I won't admit I did that.
No, you won't admit.
No, I wouldn't do that.
It's
But anyway, to make a short story long, we got married in 3 months. And
That's
from
wonderful.
there on, Mary and I did a lot of traveling in the Adirondacks, and we decided we wanted to move here after the war was over. We moved up here.
We want to show some of the things you have gathered here, and I'm sure our viewers are wondering, what do we have? First of all, you showed me what Noah John Rondo's handwriting looks like in a letter that was written to you on July 1st, 1945, and he even had papers with his name on it. Noah John Rondo, mayor of Cold River, Corries, New York.
Yep.
And he called you dear old people.
Yep.
Don't you love it?
Yep.
Well, you know, this wasn't just Noah John Rondo was a multifaceted individual. He's by some people a little bit misunderstood.
He's self-educated. And
Self-educated,
Yep.
but he was a pretty intelligent guy. He could talk on quite a few
Oh,
subjects.
yes, he was, yeah.
He developed some very interesting codes because he had a long-standing feud with the New York State Department of Conservation.
Yes, he certainly did, yes.
He didn't like all those rules and regulations and didn't want people messing in his stuff. What Noah John Rondo did in the early part of the last century, it seems funny for me to talk about the 20th century as the last century.
Yeah.
But what he did was live in a way that would be difficult to do today, right? It would be
Probably.
very difficult because they used parts of the old logging camps to
Yes,
build
he-
their huts.
That's what he did, yeah.
And
It was actually one of the cabins that remained after the close of the whatever they were doing there.
yeah, and you get in there and you
The logging camp.
logging camps, and you take their whatever old iron stove they left,
Oh,
and
yeah.
you'd move it over to your place,
He had some of that stuff, that's right.
but he was, you know, when we call people a hermit, we generally mean that they divorced themselves completely from society, but Noah John didn't necessarily do that.
No, he didn't.
Even when he was in the woods, he would always entertain people like Dittmar,
Yeah.
and friends would stop by, and it wasn't uncommon for him to have 4 or 5 people sharing that big pot of whatever he had stewing up in there.
That's right. He always said he had his food protected in garbage cans that he had dug a hole and he just had the cover showing, and he always said, well, come back and have something good out of the garbage can.
But he always had something brewing on the stove or something
Oh, yeah.
cooking. He had a lot of his own recipes that he had put together.
Well, the coffee, I think it was perpetual. I don't see he ever changed.
Good and thick, and you had to cut it with a pair of scissors, right?
I think so, yep.
But he was a character.
Well, yes, he was.
He was a character, and I've heard his voice. Unfortunately, I never met him, even though he was alive when I moved to the North Country. The first time I ever heard his voice was at the Adirondack Museum in Blue Mountain Lake. Calvin and I have done a show up there already.
Yep.
So we saw one of his huts that they brought there, and they carved a full-size likeness out of a piece of wood that's there, and they also have a button that you press and you can listen to a recording that was done on WNBZ, the Saranac Lake radio station, back in the 1940s. And it wasn't necessarily the timbre of the voice that I expected to come from a mountain man, but it was most interesting nonetheless. So
It sure was.
that was my connection, plus talking to people like you and reading the books. And I guess when you met a man like that, it adds a lot to your life when he was such a character, because he would come out of the woods, right, and he'd go to the conventions, and they would present him like the mountain man of the Adirondacks, and I think he kind of liked that publicity, don't you?
Yeah, they took him to the sportsman shows. I
Yeah.
think that's what you were talking
Yeah,
about.
the shows.
He always did come out once for a month, every year, to visit his nephew, and he stayed in Black Brook, and then he would go on back in. But in 1950, we had a terrific blowdown, and it just so happened, it was, I think, October the 30th, And it just so happened that was the day that Noah decided he was going to come out for the month. And it might have been more than a month sometimes, because he talked about Christmas with his people.
Yeah.
But anyway, he came out in 1950 and somehow dodged the trees that were all coming down. He only got out part of the way, and he stayed at Ampersand Camp, one of the Rockefellers' camps, and finally did get out to the civilization. But he was never able to go back. That was it. That was it. Yep. That was the end of it.
Yep. But once again, like you, he had all of his memories to deal with.
Yeah.
And he would, I was fascinated by the fact that he had more than one camp, and he had many camps around. He had
so to speak, I guess, yeah.
Little stashes of things in different places.
Mary and I were walking out through the woods with him one day, and he said, "Just a minute, that stump there, I got some sugar there." He'd go over and he'd reach into the stump, and out came the sugar in a jar. And so he had things cached away.
I wonder how many things he's got that are still buried somewhere that nobody ever found.
Probably is. Probably is something there.
Well, you know, there are spots in the Adirondacks, especially near where he stayed, that bear his mark today. You can still see the remnants of some of his camps and some areas. Some of the little spots are spots that he named.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some of the spots along those trails has very interesting names, don't they?
Well, yes, but I can't think of it.
Well, I can't offhand, but, you know, if he would sit down in a spot and sit on a rock and look around, whatever his impression was, that's what he'd call it.
That's right.
And some of those names persist in the books that are written about him and things that people tell him.
He had his own special pond where he went fishing, and he took us up there. And we have a picture, you'll see it in a little while, of the raft he had built, and he went out into the pond to do his fishing. But he took Mary out that day, and the picture shows he and Mary out there fishing off of his little raft on Seward Pond.
Seward Pond, those are names that are all familiar in the Cold River, as you mentioned.
Yep.
Oh, my. Well, what do you want to look at first? You pick a picture and you tell us what it is, and we'll hold it up to the camera. Oh,
there you are. Yep.
Seward Pond. We'll stop the camera and we'll figure out how to present these pictures to you, and then we'll have some fun.
Right.
We're talking with Dr. Dittmar, a retired dentist in the area, and man about town. I should say man about the Adirondack region for many, many years. And we talked a lot today about Noah John Rondo, who was kind of an icon as a hermit of the Adirondack region. And these are some pictures that you took out of your albums to make some presentation somewhere along the line.
Somewhere.
Right?
I don't recall the occasion, but I found them in the attic. When you talked to me on the phone, I had to go searching, and I did find all these pictures. And I left them mounted just as you see them. Now, first of all, as you approach the Cold River City, population 1, that was Noah Rondo, you will see these wigwams, and a close-up we'll see somewhere, probably in a little while. The close-up show that these wigwams are made of these logs that have notches, say about every foot, so that in the winter he takes one off and he cracks it off, and he doesn't have to do any further to get his firewood.
Oh, that's wonderful. We're going to continue in just a second. Oh, we just stopped for a second so we could get some good focus. Yeah, he had things planned. Obviously, if you're going to be out in the woods, you've got to have a plan.
Right.
When he made these wigwams of these notched woods, and later on we're going to show you actual notches in them, so he could take it out in the wintertime and wrap it over a stump, and he'd have a piece of firewood for a stove, right?
Right.
All right, so that's what this is all about.
Yeah, he had 2 wigwams like that, and he had another one where he cooked in. That's showing up there.
Oh, what a beautiful spot. Trout in the pan, see?
He has these chains he got from the old lumber camp hanging down in the wigwam, and there he is doing his cooking.
There was an unlimited supply of wood, of course.
Yeah.
There's Mary on the raft.
Yeah, that's at Seward Pond, where he'd catch trout.
This is
That's
Seward.
about
This is Seward, the brook.
Yep. This is what you see when you come up the trail. There you see is 2 cabins and several wigwams, at least 3. Here he is fishing right down on the Cold River, just off the bluff from where he has his little camp. And he's fishing. This is part of the dam, I guess.
I think so. Here's a picture of the dam here,
yeah,
too.
okay. The dam was sort of deteriorating. The last time I saw it, there wasn't a great deal of dam. You could walk across it at first, but as the years went by, there was just one big base log there, and it was a big one.
Now, who we got? Who are these folks here? I know who Noah John is.
There's Noah John Rondo. There's Mary Dittmar, and that's Bert Irwin. She lives in Peru, and this is the late Madeline Dodge. She was a librarian. I don't know if it was in Sable Forks or just where, but she was a librarian. Bert Irwin used to be an English teacher. Well,
that's a good set of pictures. Now let's just. Oh, he loves it. He likes to be there amongst the ladies, doesn't he?
Sure did.
All right, let's get another one here. Is that pretty good there, Calvin? All right, just describe whatever you see
well,
there.
there's one of the wigwams. You can see a lot of the notching.
His pipes were something. I understand he had a lot of different pipes that he smoked.
He had a special one there, a great big one.
He's got one that I think he's smoking right there in that picture. It's hard to see. His hat's on the ground.
Yeah.
And you can see the flowers nearby.
We may have a close-up showing that big pipe. It was one special one that he did use.
We'll look at him. Just go right ahead now. I should tell you that he used a bow and arrow.
Yeah, he got his deer that way sometimes. Yes, he did.
And he made his own bows.
I think so.
And his own arrows, so far as I know, for the most part.
He made them out of saw teeth from the ends, the points he made out of saw teeth that came from the lumber camp.
No kidding.
Somehow or other.
Well, listen, you recycled anything you could find when you live in the wood.
Yeah.
Now he's got quite a large party of folks around here in this camp. He had the little tables, mostly things that he had built.
Inside the one cabin where he lived, especially in the cold weather, it had a stove made out of a 55-gallon drum. And so he had a bunk on one side and just about enough room on the other side to be able to walk in there and tend to the fire in the 55-gallon drum.
And I see a pack basket up here and some of the strips used, and maybe that's something about a demonstration and showing how the pack basket was made.
Well, yeah, that's
and this might be right here what you were telling me about cutting the strips.
Yes,
That's the brown ash from the swamp right there.
You pound on the strips and they peel up the width you want. You put you cut the channels in the log, and then the strips come up, and you get the right shape and right width. Oh, he's really got a big one going there.
Yeah.
See,
it's not. I mean, it's hard to buy a kit like this with this stuff already made and put together. I can't imagine what it is when you start from scratch.
I made that up so people could see it, but this is the pictures of doing it.
That's the actual stuff, and this would be the interior of one of his cabins. He always had a little a bottle of strong spirits hidden for special occasions.
Shows his
notches
in these
wigwams. Right there.
That's right. You can
That's
see
the classic photograph that you always see from the book.
He looks cunning there, doesn't he? As if he's gonna really say something funny.
I love this one. This gives you a good idea about where he lived. That's what he lived in.
They called that the town hall.
The town hall. Here's the beauty parlor, and I know what he's doing up there. He's working on Mary's eyebrows, I think.
That's right.
There, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Isn't that great?
Oh, here's a close-up of the town hall.
a street. Streets are a little different in the wilderness than they would be.
Yeah, they are.
Rondeau clowning around with people, having a good time. He
Yep.
had a great sense of humor, didn't he?
They sure did.
Loved to tell stories.
There's Mary. They're cooking, I guess.
Doing some cooking. Now, are these, when you say Panther, Donaldson, Seymour, are those the names of mountains?
The ones that you see right from his place, yes.
Panther, Donaldson, Seymour.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
That one didn't have a name. This says Couchy.
Well, it's Coochie Craig. Coochie.
Oh, Coochie.
Coochie
Okay.
Craig is the name of the mountain, and everybody calls it Coochie.
And those are some of the views.
There's
from
the
there.
eyebrow pencil.
There's the eyebrow.
The beauty parlor.
There's a wet sink right there.
Yep, that's right.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
What else
So
we
even
got?
though it was out in the wilderness, it was kind of a homey place, wasn't it,
Oh,
Dick?
yes, it was very good to visit there. Get
All right. Oh,
close
look at
up
this.
on these
Oh,
things.
the notches we were talking about.
Yeah.
I don't know who that would be with the shawl on there. There's a kerchief on the
I
head.
don't know for sure either.
Look at this one.
Yeah.
Look at this one with the
Yep.
hat. That's
And when he
another-
came out in civilization, this is the way he looked.
I mean, look at, he's really duded right up. Look
Yeah,
at, he's
he
got,
sure
has
is.
he got a mule, or is that a mule or a horse?
A donkey.
A donkey, huh?
That I think is Nubbins.
Oh,
Nubbins, Nubbins was
Oh, my,
owned
my.
by the Adirondack Mountain Club, and they have a lodge called Johnsbrook Lodge up Johnsbrook from Keene Valley, and the idea was to have Nubbins backpack the stuff in, all the food and stuff they needed in there, and he did do some of that fairly well.
This was one of his famous photographs, and looks like he might be autographing
And this is
a
when
copy of it.
Yeah, when he was at the Sportsman Show
Sportsman Show.
down in it was New York, wasn't it? Where did he have
In
it?
New York City, probably
Yeah,
in
I
Madison Square Garden. I wouldn't be a bit surprised. I'm not positive, but
No, somewhere down there.
see, the mayor writes an hour log book. You've got.
Yeah.
Well, he kept. I want to point out again that he kept a lot of journals. He wrote and wrote and wrote,
And they were in code.
and he devised this rather clever code
Yeah.
and that not too many could figure out, although some have worked on it since then, and he only revealed that code to a very few people over the years. And so when you look at it, it makes no, absolutely no sense to me, but he
Right.
knew exactly what he was talking about.
Yep.
Well, we're talking with Dr. Ditmar about Noah John Rondo and a wonderful relationship that Ditt and Noah John Rondo had, and Mary and other folks in the Adirondack region. You can see, well, he always had some smoke like Santa Claus curling around his face, didn't he?
Yep.
There's one of his pipes. He had a number of pipes, but as you said, I wish we had a good picture of the huge pipe. I don't know if
We
it was
have
a,
it somewhere.
I don't know if it was a meerschaum or what it was, but it was a big old pipe that he kept smoking.
Yes, it was.
And
I haven't spotted it in these pictures, but
He
I know
must
we
have-
have it somewhere.
He must have packed his tobacco in with him when he came, and he had the strangest ways to store things, both in his encampment and out through the various places in the woods. Though, how big was he? He wasn't very tall.
No, he wasn't. I think he might have been just about 5 feet, maybe, something like that. Yeah. He was short.
He was a very, very short guy. Compared to some of the other folks. Who is this standing with him here? Do we know, Dick? Can you see that one?
That's me.
Is that you? Look at, he's got legs like tree trunks, this guy. Oh, man. How old would you have been about 30, 31 maybe?
Oh, probably.
Oh, see?
I don't remember the occasion particularly, but it's
And
one of the
and
times.
how tall are you, Dick?
I was 5'10".
5'10". So, you know, you're not even standing up straight, and he only comes up to the middle of your neck here. So,
Yeah.
yeah, on a slope. Those are great pictures. All right, we can move those.
Somewhere we'll find the one with the pipe, but I don't see
Well,
it.
there are others because we've got some books to talk about,
Yeah.
and we've got some other photographs to talk about. These are classic photographs, and most of these are taken by you or somebody who was with you, right? With him
Yeah,
out in
yeah.
the woods.
Yeah.
This one, Trout in the Pan, is a classic.
Yeah.
That one there, I think we didn't look at, right?
Oh, wait, did we not look at this one, Calvin? Well, didn't want to miss one. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we did, because that's what the one where they had the pack basket on the top.
Yeah.
People looked like they got plenty to eat when they were out in the woods with Noah John.
What was on the menu?
What was on the menu? What would he
Oh,
have?
trout was always on it.
And there would be some venison.
It could be, yeah.
And he had gardens, because he had his own garden area there in the city.
He had flowers going
Oh,
there.
yes, he had flowers and vegetables.
He grew vegetables
Yep,
also,
yep.
and he'd throw some
I
vegetables
don't
in
know
the
if we have
pot.
any pictures of those.
But he did have these little garden spots that he tried to keep away from the critters. He said he always planted enough so the critters could have some too.
Let's get that.
That's quite a flowery.
Let's take this and see if there's anything in here.
All right, and I'm sure there is.
Oh, yeah. Gate to
Let's
the
get in the
city.
place where Calvin can get a view of it. Now, Calvin just got behind us so he can look over our shoulders.
All right.
Now, tell me how Noah John Rondo decided to go into the woods and become a hermit. He was a barber, wasn't he?
Well, I understand he was a barber at logging camps, but he also was a guide. And he got in a little trouble with one of the conservation officers.
Yes, he did. Lots of trouble over the years.
The way he told the story was that he didn't take the deer out of season or whatever, but it was the conservation man, and he had a sign up to this effect on his gate on his town hall, so everybody would know that that he was. They took his guide license away, and so he had nothing else he could do. So he moved in.
But he loved the woods,
Oh, yeah.
and he insisted on being there most of the time. As
Yep.
Ditt says, he would come out, sometimes for more than a month at a time, sometimes for a week at a time, whatever the spirit moved him to do. And he would like to spend the Christmas with his relatives.
That's right. Yeah, that's the way.
But he'd go into the woods, and he felt as though that renewed his spirit. He was quite a philosopher, and he would chat with you about what his philosophy about living in the woods was
Oh,
anytime.
yes.
Anytime.
Yeah.
He developed quite a spiel for the city folk too.
He certainly did.
I'm
Yep.
sure a lot of the stories he told were tongue in cheek, and I heard some of
Well,
the tales that he would weave for these people at the sportsmen's conventions that
He's
sounded
got
to
a-
me like they were about a half a mile from the truth.
He's got a bear story that he tells, and that was really tongue in cheek.
Can you remember that story?
Oh, I can't, but
I can't either, but it's delicious. I've heard it told, and I've
have?
seen it in print several times.
Well, I have it on tape, and I thought.
Oh, you do? Really?
Yeah, I'll let you have that sometime.
someday.
I never thought of that,
Oh, that's
but it's on
great.
a cassette.
Oh, that's wonderful. All right, let's start with, as long as we have this book here, this is called Any Place in the Adirondacks, a collection of 20 historic tear-out Adirondack postcards. Where did you get this book?
Well, it was devised by J. O'Hearn,
Who wrote the latest
the
book.
book that you're reading.
Well, these are classic photographs. Now, that's an old one.
Yeah.
That's a really old one.
Yep.
Is one of those guys Noah John, do you think?
I doubt it, but it might be the fellow that he wrote about in his book.
They've each got a pistol. And they've both got
Now,
guns.
I don't know if that one is described. The postcards are all described. See in the back. It
Oh,
tells,
I see.
But
Hold the mic, buddy.
Okay. Oh. Fairmount, New York.
that's where he lives.
That's where J. O'Hearn
That's the.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the author.
Well, what a nice way to present these photographs. Some of these photographs we've seen,
Yep.
and some are new. Here we go. They're pointing, and somebody's pointing, and somebody's going to shoot. There's one of those pack baskets, probably one that he made.
Yeah.
Ah. Experience the mountains.
Here's the bear that
Oh,
he
my.
got with a bow and arrow.
He must have been pretty strong. He looks like he's got that bear on his shoulder. I don't know how long he carried
sure
it.
does.
Oh, it's just great pictures. Great photographs. Whoops, did we miss one? Oh, no, I'm sorry. Okay. Think Trout. Look at this one.
Yeah.
There she is.
Yep.
There's that picture of Mary and Noah John on the raft.
And these are the others that you saw. Now this is his fishing outfit. This is a beaver skin that he put. That's a fish carrying bag.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
He wore that hat. Look at, he's all dressed up here.
Well, the hat he wore here, or there, he painted with, made it waterproof. I've forgotten whether it was green paint or what. He painted it.
Oh, my,
dear.
my. There's the beauty parlor again.
Yeah, yeah,
Baby in the basket.
And the baby in the basket.
yeah.
And this is your son, you said?
Yeah, that's David, yeah.
When he was, what, about a year old or so?
About a year old, yeah. We used to take him skiing that way, too. And he'd look around after we got down the hill at Whiteface, when he had the rope tow, is all we had. But we
Yeah.
could go up on a rope tow. Anyway, he'd look around and he'd see everybody else falling. And he'd fall down, Daddy.
Oh, he wanted you to fall down.
He thought it was part of
He
the
thought
deal.
that was the deal, huh?
Yeah.
The U.S. Bobbin and Shuttle Corporation.
You got me. I don't think it's about
Cold
that.
River Hermitage.
Yep.
These are some of the pictures we've seen before.
That's right.
And that's a photograph that's in the red book that we mentioned before. There's the picture right on the cover of
He's
Richard
the one
Smith.
that he wrote. Yeah.
Richard Smith.
He wrote his story from as if he was telling it. Whoop.
Oh, this is so
There we
much,
go. There we
so
go.
much fun. Cold River. There's Cold River again with lots of people. The wigwams that
Yeah.
became synonymous with his camp. Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know he wore glasses. I guess I have seen a couple of pictures with
Yes,
glasses
he
on.
had glasses. Now that you speak of it, I remember. But he doesn't very often
Let
wear
me
them.
tip it over this way.
Mhm.
Oh, look at some of these faces.
There's Mary, and there's her
It-
sister. Her sister.
Well, maybe that, when I asked who that lady was with the scarf on, maybe that was Mary.
I think it
before.
must have
I think
been.
it
Yeah,
was
probably
Mary.
was.
A sweet spot in the wilderness, huh?
Yep, it was. Look, he's got these pieces of deer bones hanging around.
And this has got to be the inside of a canoe, huh?
That looks it, yeah. Bone dry, he says.
I'm trying to figure out what this would be. Does that look like anything familiar?
It looks like a jug, isn't it?
Oh, you think it's a? Maybe it is
I
a.
don't know, really.
Maybe it is a jug with a
Let's
with a
see if
wooden
let's see if
stopper in
it
it.
says anything back here on it. It says, can you read it?
It says it pleased Adirondack guide Gerald Kenwell to have his camp men and women who really enjoyed being in the North Woods, but there are two things that bothered everyone: black flies and an empty jug. So there you
It
go.
was a jug.
That's kind of a delightful
his
book,
there's his signature.
and
that's
I'll bet that book is probably available for our viewers. That's kind
Yeah,
of
he's
nice,
putting
isn't
them,
it?
He's going to put them on sale.
Yeah. Well, there's even the price, $10.
Is that what it is?
You probably got the first one too, huh?
He sent me one.
Oh, look at this. Now, there's the sign that says the North Placid Trail,
Yep, that's the other end of it. yeah.
Adirondack Mountain Club, and you can't tell, it looks like an old Chevy right there, doesn't it? Looks like an old Chevrolet
Sure
that
does.
somebody's driven in
Yeah,
there.
it's an old timer.
Well, that's great. Now let's just have a little look at some of these from this album.
These are the ones that are left over that after
Okay, that
mounted
says
them.
the gate to the city.
yeah.
Here's some more of the wood piles. We always had to have plenty of wood to make it through the winter. Let me
Yeah.
see here. We got Mary watching Noah John play the fiddle.
Well, he's got his bow here. That's
Yeah, and he's also got his fiddle over his
yeah.
arm, under
Yep.
his neck. Always
Here
got
he's-
a little flowers there in the vase.
Here he's shooting with his.
With a bow and arrow.
bow.
You can see the notches really good
Yeah. Yeah.
for his wood
And you
pile
know,
wigwams.
You can go in one of those, and it might be raining, but you never get wet. It runs
Okay.
down the poles. Yeah.
Isn't that
Never
neat?
got wet.
Look at this beautiful
This is
country.
out behind the dam. The dam would be in here, and that's the backwater.
More wigwams.
Yep.
Okay, oh, there's a good shot.
There's Nubbins again.
I don't know why he's carrying a switch with him.
Well, I don't know either, but he's outside. See, he's not at his home here.
Oh, look at
This one, I think, it must have been taken at the Sportsman Show.
Well, sure. What do we got? A paddle, and we got snowshoes,
Yeah.
and we got some pelts. And I don't know what this... He looks like he's got some kind of a badge. What do we got here? Well, he's got his pack back on there,
Yeah.
doesn't he, huh?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So that's what you went climbing with the first time, huh? A pack basket?
That's what I used to use. Yeah.
Oh, now
he's
he's
all
not.
dressed up. He's
He's-
out in. He's out on Sable Forks or someplace.
Yeah, now we're talking in later years there, aren't we, huh?
Yep.
He's in somebody's home. Got a nice little trout on the line here.
Mm-hmm.
He's got that pensive, furrowed brow, like he's thinking well beyond the current conversation.
Oh, I had to laugh at something I found years after he was gone. This all deteriorated, you know, it caved in. But he had one of these lanterns on a tree, on a branch. But the branch had grown with all this, you couldn't take it off
Grew
anymore.
right around the bale. Huh?
Yeah.
Isn't
Well, yeah. It had big branches, so you couldn't slide it off the branch anymore.
And haven't you seen
It must have been there
trees?
for 20
haven't
years.
you seen trees around old farms where the barbed wire was
Yeah, same
go in
idea.
one side and out
Yeah,
the other?
Yep.
Somebody would put an old rifle in the crotch of a tree, and it would be it would be in
Oh.
there. Oh, look at this!
Yes, quite a. He must have had a party out there
We got a bear,
guiding them, and
bear and 4 deer, huh?
yeah, I guess so. Probably one of his parties. Well, this isn't
Just-
anywhere near.
just-
This happens to be looking at the McIntyre Range from Indian Falls.
Oh, beautiful!
Yep. I don't know why we haven't come across the one with these are all empty.
Well, that's all right, because I know what you did. You made the presentation out of them.
Yeah. I don't know what happened to that one with the pipe, though. That's such a...
You had one, a real good one with the pipe, huh?
Yes, I sure did. What do we got here? I guess they don't even... There doesn't seem to be anything to do with it. Oh, here we go again.
Oh, there's some good stuff. Look at this, working over the...
Yeah, that's
There's the
like...
one.
It's like that big one, I guess.
That's the one.
Yeah, I think
It's
so.
right up there in that big shot that
Yeah.
we showed before.
Whoop.
Okay, what do we got? Well, we could have seen that one before, too.
Yeah. Well, it's in
The
that...
thorn between the
It's
roses
on the
there,
postcard.
huh?
It's on the
Yeah,
postcard,
on the
too.
postcards as well.
Oh, here is I think this is an Adirondack Mountain Club meeting. He talked to the Algonquin chapter here in Plattsburgh.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, I think that's what this is.
Oh. Now, we got a lean-to here. Where would this be?
Well, it could be any
Any one of the
yeah, they
Adirondack
all look
names.
alike.
And they built lean-tos in the mountains even back in the 40s.
Oh, yeah.
They
oh,
did.
Yeah, yep.
That would be a respite for the weary travelers and hikers and
Let's
mountain
see.
climbers. And
I don't know if I'm going to find that.
the one with the pipe. He's
The
on. This
one with the
man's on a
pipe.
mission, I'll tell you. Oh, look at this! What a beautiful, beautiful spot.
That's it. The float out there again, the raft, isn't it?
Yep. I don't know how many miles of trails there would be in the Adirondack region today, but you can start as a young person and keep on going for years and then do it again. And once
Well,
you've
find it.
climbed the 46ers, then you can climb them again. What have we got over here? More treasures. More treasures.
That's these
Well, he filled the
envelopes.
whole envelope when he wrote his name.
Yeah.
That's from 1951.
3 cents postage.
And 3 cents postage. Yeah, let's look at some of these. Oh, you showed us this picture before.
Yep.
And playing the violin. Yeah, we've seen that one.
Now this shows welcome to the 46ers and welcome to the Adirondack Mountain Club. We had those banners made up.
Oh, that's kind of...
Don't move it too quick, please.
I'm sorry. Can you see it? That's kind of neat. I wonder if he made those, or you think he made all those? to Welcome the people?
Made the what now?
Are those banners? You
Oh
think
yeah,
he-
yeah, he must have made them.
There's Mary again, work in the next to the wet sink. Oh, these are great photographs. This is an old newspaper that
This
you've
one is, yeah.
Syracuse Post Standard, I guess, 1942. Ditt.
Yeah.
Oh my! Let me open this up so we can get a better look at it, and so Calvin can get it a better look. The Hermit of Cold River in the Adirondack Wilds, 20 miles southwest of Lake Placid, and about 13 miles from the nearest highway, lives Noah John Rondo, the Hermit of Cold River. The tale is told that the hermit was driven to the woods by a broken heart, but he denies it. Listen to this. Oh, says he, I never planned to get married till I'd established myself in my profession. Now it's a great deal too late. There you go.
There's the pipe.
You finally found it.
One picture of it
The
anyway.
hermits, look at the size. You'd have to have an awful set of teeth to hold that thing in your mouth, wouldn't you? Look at
It
this.
must have been very heavy.
It says until 4 years ago he never smoked or drank. I don't believe that either, based on what I know about him. He doesn't want a radio. Rangers give him the highlights of the news, and I don't think that's true either, because he didn't like to associate. Well, he didn't mind the Rangers, but he didn't want to go with the conservation people
That's
very
right.
much. There's a real good look at the
Yes, it is, yeah.
tar-papered shack.
Yeah.
You know, a bed, candlestick, hook for the violin, and 2 broad shelves. What else could you possibly need?
Needed.
Okay, what's this?
That looks like it might be at the sportsman show.
Great pictures. Yeah, he's got all the paraphernalia stacked up there, and he's got his best tie on. And
Now we went.
well, this is the Tahoe's Sportsman Show, April 1st,
Okay,
1950. Mrs. Dodge, the 3 Ditmars, and 1 Hermit.
Yeah.
Don't you love it?
And the pack basket.
And the pack basket. All right.
Yeah.
Look at this, the baby again in the pack basket.
Yeah. That's right.
No wonder your kids climbed mountains when they grew up. They'd already climbed them
Years
before they grew up.
afterwards, we went up to see if we could find any of the old stuff. Look, this is what happened to the deterioration.
Now, this
of-
probably would have been after he died, maybe in the
a long
60s.
time ago. Yeah, a long time after that.
This says February 1972,
Yeah, that's right.
and that's
Look how it's all caved in.
all deteriorated.
Some more- yeah.
Let me hold it up so Calvin can get a look at it. Look at the saw.
Yep.
See the saw leaning up against?
Uh-huh.
So this is what, 29 years ago, right, Calvin? 29, 1972.
Yeah.
So I imagine it's probably long gone by now, huh?
Apparently, they found the float and they got out on it. It was still there. It was still there.
The float was still there.
Yep.
As I said, you could go back in there and find this spot right now, and there would be remnants. There would be some timbers. Look at this. The roof is gone.
Yeah. Yeah, the roof's
But
gone
they
on that
took-
one. That shows better.
But which one did they put in the Adirondack Museum? That was a different. It
It
looked like a
wasn't
different.
it was the Hall of Records, he called it, not the,
Oh, okay.
that's the one they took. They couldn't move the other because it was made of logs.
Oh.
The sides were logs, see.
Okay.
But the other was all boards, and they took that one.
Oh, these are nice photographs of the Adirondack region. You've saved some wonderful memorabilia here.
Here's,
Tupper Lake, come on. Tupper Lake Free Press, established 1931, and this would be 1942. And Noah Rondo, Hermit of Cold River, describes life in the wilderness home at father-son dinner. So he would go out and actually make presentations and make speeches from time to
by
time.
that time, yeah. Here
Well,
we-
that's 1942.
yeah.
He lived for another 20 years or so after that, or close to it. There's that picture we saw before with the kids.
Yep.
And, oh, you got such neat stuff. You got this all out of your attic just for us today?
Yeah.
By the way, And thanks to that lady who told me I should make sure I identify the person I'm interviewing more frequently, Dr. Dittmar, our friend for many years and a friend of the Adirondack region for even more years, having climbed the 46 peaks of the Adirondacks a total of 6 times in his lifetime. And is this typical of one of the maps that you would take with you when
Yeah.
you went hiking?
Yeah, I thought I might be able to find the right spot here.
There's Ampersand. You talked about Ampersand Lake before.
That's right. So it's
For people who are familiar with the Ampersand region, I should say.
there's Seymour.
There's Seward Mountain,
There it is.
Seymour
There's-
Mountain.
There's where.
and there you've got it written in red, Rondeau's.
Yep.
I get the microphone out of the camera. So that's roughly where it is.
Where is it?
Well, show us again. Point at it. Right there with a red spot right on it, and that's
Yep.
where his camp was.
Yep.
In Essex County.
It's just over the border from Franklin into Essex County.
Yes, right.
Now
on
show
the-
us where would you go to get into that camp? Where would you start
up
out?
in here would be one place. All the way down here and then over.
Okay.
Or I can't show you. It'd be over in here. The Long Lake. Come from Long Lake. You go up the Cold River. See, here's the Cold River, and you get there that way. There's
Right up the river,
those are
huh?
the 2 ways that I would suggest.
Well,
Better.
just to mention for some of our viewers who've never been in the area but who might recognize names, there's Moose Pond down here,
Yeah.
Wolf Pond, and
Well, they're all way off. You never get to them unless you bushwhack to them. Henderson Lake.
Henderson?
But you're coming in from, when you're coming up this way, you're coming in from Long Lake. Everybody knows where Long Lake is.
Yep.
It's been in the Adirondacks. And you go up the Cold River about 6 to 8 miles, somewhere in there.
well, it's quite a long hike.
You go out the base of Cold River of Long Lake and go about a mile, and that's where the Cold River comes in. And then you just have to walk up the edge of the river until you get there.
You make it sound nice and easy, Ditt, but that 6 miles walking in that kind of country,
Yeah.
you could get awful hungry and thirsty along the way, that's for sure.
Well, I guess that's about everything.
Does the little lake have a name?
Which this lake here, is that,
Well, that's just
Colden?
behind the dam. See?
did it have a name, I wonder?
No, I don't think so. It's you see, it's just open because that's where the water had been before it flowed out.
But it's actually part of the Cold River.
Yeah, it would be.
I'm just looking at some of the names. Duck Hole, there's an upper Duck Hole and a lower Duck Hole, and then a Duck Hole up here. I remember in the books about Noah John.
Well, Duck Hole is Mountain Pond
Right
up
there,
here,
yeah, right there.
And then Duck Hole is this. You go past Mountain Pond as you come in to go to his place. See, like that.
Yep.
And Duck Hole is off in this direction, as you see. Yeah, you could. I think you could come down here to Hollis. I'm not sure, but I'd have to review that to find out.
But Noah John, when he was in there, he ranged over quite a wide area, didn't
Well, I guess he did.
he? And you guys did too, when you were walking all these trails.
That's right.
It wasn't always up and down mountains. It was along the Adirondack
A lot
Trail.
of it was bushwhacking too.
Well, by bushwhacking, you have to tell us what you mean there.
That means
That means by the skin of your teeth and
you
off
take,
into the
you
woods.
take a compass reading, and you just go through the woods, and you climb over all the stuff in between, the down trees, and you push your way through, and that's bushwhacking.
So I wonder. So you didn't always stay on established trails.
Oh no, there weren't.
If you wanted to get somewhere, there was no trail to get many
In the
places.
beginning, there were no trails up 20 of the 46. And you had to find your way up by map and compass.
Oh,
Follow streams or nothing. You just follow the direction you have to go. using your compass.
I wonder if some of the trails that you broke are still being used today. I wouldn't be surprised because you guys were in the woods
I
a
hope we
lot.
didn't leave too much of a trail behind us as we went through, but there have been enough people now, as they say, 4,600, they have become trails.
Does it make you sad when you? I know you haven't been in the woods in a while, but when you'd go in and see the littering along the trails, things that people would leave.
It's pretty good, though. It's not
They
too
pretty
much.
good?
Yeah, there's not too much of that.
Because, they always try to indoctrinate people who do mountain climbing and hiking to take anything you take in, you bring out with you if you
Yep.
can.
We distributed litter bags with that idea in mind.
Did you really?
Yep, the 46ers did. And hopefully they should use it to take the stuff out.
Now, somebody told me they went in to look at the old Noah John Rondo city, as he called it, and they found somewhere along the bank near there a tremendous, like a dumping area where he had put all his cans, because he had a
Well,
lot of canned food, and they said they found condensed milk cans.
Yes, I remember that too. He was up on a bluff, and you had to go way down to get to the river and to the dam. The dam was there, and it was over there. He must have tossed the stuff all over
think
for
he just-
years.
So he wasn't necessarily a conservationist, but what was he going to do unless he buried all the stuff? I think he just threw it down there. And somebody told me
I'm sure he did.
there were tons and tons and tons of cans.
I remember it too. Yep, Yep.
How about that? Now let me see. Did we looked at most of the books?
I think
I want to
we
let
have.
people know that this one's a little weather worn. I think
Sort of.
this was written by our good friend Maitland Desormeaux, whom I've interviewed many times before he had the bad sense to die on me.
Yeah.
He was a high school coach and a teacher, and wrote a number of books about interesting characters and places in the Adirondacks. He had his hands on a lot of the old photographs from the old days, and he would come down and we'd do an interview, and he would.
Most of the pictures in here
Are the same ones that
are
you've
my
already seen?
pictures.
Are your-
Yeah, I gave them all those
Because
pictures.
anytime somebody wants to write a book about Noah John and the Adirondack, who do you think they come to start talking to? Dittmar.
Yeah.
So that's, here's a picture of what Maitland Desormeaux looked like. He lived in Saranac Lake, and his wife, to the best of my knowledge, still lives there. And he and I had started to make a contract, an oral contract for me to record every one of his books.
Oh, really?
And we were going to split the profits, and we're all going to be rich, and like all other these pie in the sky schemes that never quite materialized. But he was a good guy. This is the latest book that we talked about before. It's one of those books that was told by somebody who went into the woods with Noah John and then told somebody else the story. And it does tell in this book how he ended his life. What do you know about when he came out of the woods and where he went for the last 10 or 15 years of his life?
Well, he lived in various places, mostly around Wilmington. Now, there's a place just down the road toward Upper J from Wilmington, off to the left as you're going in that direction, and he had a wigwam there and a cabin. It looked very much like what he had down in Cold River. So that's where he was in the end. And then he finally was sent to the hospital in Saranac Lake.
Yeah, we saw. There were some photographs. There were some great photographs in this book. Some are your photographs.
Yeah.
I want to mention that your name is sprinkled freely through this book.
Well, he keeps writing to me to get more details on stuff.
And I was trying there. There's one of the places that he lived at toward the end of his life, and that was a little. It says "Home is the Hunter," and that's the last part of this book is about the last years of Noah John Rondo.
But that might be that place that I'm talking about, but it doesn't look exactly like what I think it looked like.
That's just the one that stuck in my mind
Yeah.
only because it was associated with the final chapters
Yeah.
of this book. A lot of the things in this book are anecdotes that are remembered by this young man at that
He
time
wrote
by
it
the
in
name
that
of
way.
Richard
I
Smith.
thought that was a very clever way
And
of doing it.
I enjoyed seeing that very much because
Yeah,
it did
yeah.
give us somebody else's perspective, just like your perspective today of Noah John Rondo. And I know you looked at him as an interesting and curious person, but he actually became your friend.
I was going to say, yeah, we were real friends. Yeah.
Yep, for a long period of time, and that's a period in history, like most other significant periods of history, that can never be. You can never bring it to the present. We can't ever do this again like
Yeah,
this before. Nobody will have stories quite like this ever again in the Adirondack region
No.
because everything has its time and its place.
Yeah.
And their conditions of life the way it was during the early days. He was born in the 19th century and lived through over half of the 20th century. But things have changed so much, even though I don't want to give people the impression that there still isn't wilderness, because there's a lot of,
It's still
thanks to that
wilderness.
blue line,
That's right.
there's still a lot of Adirondack wilderness.
You have to hike at least 13 miles unless you go in partly by canoe like you do from Long Lake, but it's about 13 miles in there from where the Northville Passage Trail starts. That's where you have to go.
Well, we do have one of the most beautiful places on earth up here, and we talk about it a lot. Now, tell me about these two wonderful
These are
books.
two books that the Adirondack 46ers put out, and I have that extra one I want you to have.
Oh, you're so kind to do that. Look at
This
some of
is
these.
Mount Marcy from.
Well, let me just tip it around so Calvin can
I
can
forgot.
take a look. Yeah, we got to look at it through the eye of the camera,
That's
but
right,
just
sure.
absolutely beautiful, beautiful pictures.
It has a great caption.
From Mount Marcy, from Lake
Lake
Tier
Tier.
of the Clouds.
Yeah, that's just below Marcy.
Well, the word Adirondack is an Indian name, and lots of these places are Indian, Native American place names, names that the Indians put on them.
That's me up
I
there.
just want to have everybody look at Ditt's hairdo.
That was the 100th anniversary of the first climb made of Haystack Mountain. And the
Wow.
46ers went up to celebrate the event. And I kept the record of who was coming. I think there were 82 of them. Not-
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my. Anyway, wonderful books. And this is another one.
Yeah. This doesn't have too much. I don't think that has anything about Rondo in it, but as I say, I didn't want to sell that with a bad corner.
But you know
so
what?
I never sold it.
The Adirondack region was here a long time before you and I got here.
Right?
And believe me, it'll be here a long time after we're gone.
I hope so.
But I hope in the course of this interview with Dr. Dittmar and his wonderful wife Mary, and telling some of these experiences, that maybe Ditt, just maybe, we've inspired somebody else to get involved and climb. Listen, you can't climb 46 till you climb one. It's like taking that first baby step,
Yeah,
isn't
I
it?
suppose so. That's right.
What did you
Most everybody starts with Mount Marcy
Of course.
because it's the
They
highest
take the
one.
first hike into
Yep,
Marcy
they went the
Dam,
highest.
and if they survived, then they
Yep.
then they make the trip. I guess people do it in different order. When you went your sixth time, I bet you didn't go in the same order you did your first time.
I'm sure we didn't. Just the way it happened, that's all. We're going to go into the area where Sewards are, the Seward, Donaldson, Emmons, and Seymour. They're all more or less together. You do them in one trip. Then you go off in another direction, do another group.
Until
that's
all
the
of a
way it
sudden
goes.
you're done, huh? And
Yeah.
you say, okay, now I'm going
Eventually,
to take a break and start it over
Usually
again.
you're done except for two. We'll say one is way over on this side, the other one's way over here someplace.
Now, also, there are different ways people climb these mountains. We should mention you get special credit if you climb them all in the wintertime. A lot of people go for the winter climbing.
Well, you just get registered,
Yeah.
recorded. Let's put it that
Recorded.
way. You know, we don't advocate anybody doing anything, but we record people's climbs. So that's why I'm the 31st recorded one.
Yeah.
And there might have been others that never said they did them. See,
That's true. And I
There
know
could be.
I know that you wrote a lot of things for your 46ers organization, but did you keep a journal on your own?
Not a real journal with every step of the way.
Just every
Just
now
a
and
few
again?
notes, few notes. Yep.
Did you ever think maybe of compiling those few notes for posterity?
I don't think I need to. It's all in these books. Every one of the 46 peaks. See, here we go. There's Seward, and there's
Oh, that's nice
Huff,
because it
and
gives
there's
the.
Armstrong tells
let me-
about everything.
Let me just show this again because it gives you a little bit of critical information about each one, doesn't
That's
it?
right. So there you have what you were talking about.
Yeah, but I'm talking about Dittmar's
Okay,
experience.
all right.
Dittmar's notes. Do you have like volumes and volumes of handwritten stuff? or-
I certainly don't.
Oh, you don't?
No, I had it all up here.
Oh boy. Well, you know what? I'm glad we pried a little bit of that, all that stuff that's up there, out of you today.
Okay.
It's something that I've wanted to do for a long time because I don't mind telling you that I've admired you over the years and all the things you have done for your own enjoyment. And we can't say that you didn't enjoy almost every minute you spent in the Adirondacks, but
You
to
were
share
right.
it, to
You
share
were
it.
right. But I've always listened to you on the radio, and I
Oh,
miss
here we
that.
go.
I miss that horribly, really.
Well,
Yep.
like I said, you can't recover the past.
No.
But you can remember the past.
Yep. That's
And
right.
with these memories, hopefully we will inspire some young people to take their families and take a walk in the woods. I mean, you know, I have nothing against any of the media. I worked in the media for a long time. But for goodness sake, on a beautiful spring weekend, shut the cotton-picking television off and put on the pack basket and take a walk, right? Take a hike.
That's the way.
Take a hike.
Do it.
It's been a lot of fun. I hope you folks are around for another 20 years, and well,
That would be something to happen.
well, you've done well, and you've shared your experiences in life with me, and now with Calvin, and we're going to wrap up our program with Dr. Dittmar in just a moment. I almost packed up and went home before we did the addendum or the conclusion of our program today. I'll tell you what we hope to do. If you see it on the end of this program, you'll know we were eminently successful. Dittmar told us he had an audio recording, either cassette tape or reel-to-reel, of Noah John Rondo and telling some of his tall stories about the bars of the Adirondacks and how to catch a bear. This one story is recounted in this book. If you happen to purchase or get this book in a library, you'll see the bear story in here, and it's delicious. If we get that, we'll tack it on the end and show some pictures, and I think that'll be absolutely terrific. In the meantime, I want to give you my personal heartfelt thanks for being here, both you and Mary, for sharing your experiences with us today. May you have many, 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 many years of good health and happiness. Thanks again for allowing us to come into your life.
Well, thanks for having us. It was very, very enjoyable, and it was a pleasure to be here.
It was a lot of fun. This program was recorded at the Senior Citizens location on Elm Street in Plattsburgh on April 24th, 2001. Our thanks to Kathleen Hazel for allowing us to come into her place here, which is hopping pretty good about noontime, just about every day, right, Ditt?
That's right.
That's great. If you're a senior and you haven't joined the Senior Citizens Organization here in Clinton County, by all means, call Kathleen, look it up in the book, and enjoy the fellowship that you have with these seniors. They're a wonderful, vital group. And who knows where we're going to be next time for our little corner.
Tonight we have a very special guest here at Silver Lake, Noah John Rondo, the Hermit of the Adirondacks. Well, Noah, we sure are glad to have you here this evening. Won't you tell a little bit about yourself and what you've been doing and where you've come from?
Yes, I've done that before for you. But tonight I'd rather tell you about yourself. I think your accomplishment here in this camp and so forth is marvelous. I might say to our guest, tonight is rather cold and stormy and so forth, but we're on the shore of Silver Lake, within a stone throw of the lake. It's rather stormy and cold and so on, but we're in Dr. Dittmar's new camp, right in front of the fireplace, and the fire is aglow, and it's warm and cheerful in here in spite of the cold and storm outside. Oh, today is the 22nd day of August, about 10 p.m., 1951 A.D. I think this is A.D., isn't
This
it?
is A.D.
Not B.C.
Not BC.
Yeah, all right, A.D. And now I can tell you a little about Cold River and so forth. But Dr. Dittmar, I want to congratulate you upon your success and so forth while you're still young. And do you know you've got a wonderful camp and a wonderful location here?
Well,
And of course, the camp is recently accomplished and not half finished, you think. But it's a big accomplishment as it is, and very enjoyable. And that fireplace is a marvel. And Mrs. Dittmar was telling me them horns came from Cold River up there, and so forth and so on.
That's
Well,
right.
I think everything is a success and working very good. Now, about Cold River, of course you've been up there, but you know, much of the beauty up there has been spoilt by that awful wind we had last November. The most of that beautiful forest you saw up there is now a 6-foot slash, or a slash 6 feet deep. And the Conservation Commission has closed that part of the Adirondacks to the public for the season because of the danger of fire and so forth and so on. But the day will come when we'll get back up in there, and the trails are being cleaned out in spite of the fact that the gates are closed. And you know that big buck you saw up there in June 1949?
Yeah.
He had 8 points and so forth and so on. I'd watched him the year before. And finally, in 1950, in November, I went up and got him. He had 12 points, and I shot him right from the town hall door. He was way across the river. But I got him, and in fact, he lay dead on the snow before the echo of the shot reached Seward Brook. And I have his head mounted up to my mansion up to Wilmington, near the gateway. Mrs. Dittmar and Mr. and Mrs. Clemens saw the head today. It's still in a crate there. It's a marvel. It's a beautiful thing. I think you ought to have it down here in your new camp. Well, I don't know what else to tell you. I think that's maybe pretty near enough. But of course there's an awful variety of stories that go with Cold River, just like the variety of mountains. You know, there's more than one mountain, and they're not all alike. And between every 2 mountains, there's a valley. And between every 2 valleys, there's a mountain. And among them, there's a wonderful array of flowery and peony, well, buttercups and daisies, and a lot of forest and trees, and bounding deer, and big bear, and little brooks, and great big fishes, and sometimes a rainbow in the sky. Sometimes the sun is shining, and sometimes it rains. And at night, with a glowing fire, it's wonderful to watch the stars overhead. Now, don't you think that's about correct, Doctor? You've been up
sure
there.
is. I sure do.
Oh, it's a wonder. In fact, well, I can't wish that we were there tonight because the wind, the place is closed and so forth, and it's kind of cold, and it's good enough right here. All right, Dr. Dittmar, you've been pestering me long enough about a story about, from Cold River and so forth. I'll give you one that'll make your head swim. You know you've been up there, but you didn't see half of my tricks. You ought to know some of the tricks that I played on bear up there and so forth and so on. In fact, your friend, Mr. Clement here, came up there, and he got to talking to me about fishing and fishes until I was pretty near seasick. And I gave him a couple of my deer scares, you know, a counter that I had with bucks and so forth and so on. And still he was talking fishing, and I was getting seasick. So I run one of my big bear over him, and that kind of put the damper on him. So he thought he'd bring me down here to Silver Lake. Well, you see, there's a way of stopping some of them fellas. But you've been up there, and you've seen some of them mountains there where I skin bears and take the hearts out of them when they're warm and so forth and so on. Well, sir, I went out for a bear one day, and, well, I went away up the mountain, and I had a hatchet in my bag, and I had a lunch, and I had some other things. Well, finally I got away up the mountain and made quite a circle and was coming back home, and I stopped near a brook to have my lunch. And I used my hatchet, and I broke some wood, and I made a little fire, and I made a cup of tea, and I had my lunch, and I went away and I didn't put out the fire. Well, when I got home, I missed my hatchet. I forgot it, see, where I had my lunch. So, all right, I got along without the hatchet for a few days. Then I was going back up, and I was still after bear. I meant to get a bear. But that first day, when I lost the hatchet, you know, I hadn't seen a bear yet when I had my lunch. Well, then I left that little brook and that lunching place, and I had about 3 miles to go to camp. Well, I went about a mile looking pretty gingerly around every treetop, you know, and back of boulders and where there might be a bear. And, you know, I hadn't seen a bear. Well, I went another mile, and, you know, I hadn't seen a bear. Well, I went the last mile and got clear to the camp within 100 feet of the camp, up on the elevation, and I looked back and I couldn't see a bear at all. And, you know, I got way back home and put up my gun in the camp, and I hadn't seen a bear. Didn't get a bear that day. Can you beat that? Well, a few days later, I wanted to go in the woods, and I filled my pipe, and I only had one match, and I didn't like to go hunting because I didn't know if the match would be any good or not. So I tried it, and it was good, and so I went hunting, and went looking for bear, and I went up to look for my hatchet, see, where I forgot it a few days before, and the fire I left there had burned quite a little circle around and burned up the leaves and some more sticks. And I found the handle of the hatchet, but the head burned up. I couldn't find it at all, only the ashes of it. But I got the handle.
Well, that was good.
Oh, that was a great rescue. So I came back to camp. Well, I didn't get a bear, so I went back in the woods and I set a trap for a bear. And I killed a couple rabbits and a woodchuck, and I beat it good. And I went to camp, and I stayed a couple of days, and I went back to see my trap, and it was gone. And the trees were all clawed up, and ribbons of bark hung to the ground on big balsams. And a big bear, had stepped into the trap and pressed the pan down against the frame and held it, you know, and there he was. But he'd gone with the trap. So I followed along, and pretty soon I came up to the bear. Well, he was an awful big bear, and he was awful mad. He had circles around his eyes, and froth dripped off his chin, and his tongue run out a foot, and he looked at me, and then he'd look the other way, and he'd growl. Yes, sir, you know, just I was telling you, the bear growled. Well, of course, you know, that made my hair stand right up pretty near to the moon. And, well, he was a big bear, and of course I didn't want to go and curl his mustache. I ain't much afraid of bear, but then I don't like to have him take a hold of me. Did you ever have a bear take a hold of you, Doctor?
No, I haven't.
Well, now they take a hold right around, you know, and stick their claws in. Well, that ain't so bad, but what gets me is when they let go. They let go quick, and that makes me awful nervous. Well, I shot that bear anyway, and, you know, I killed him. Well, I went up to him, and he looked pretty dead. But you know what I do in a case like that? I don't take a chance. I sit down and watch him for 5 minutes to see if there's a breath in him, see? Yeah. And if he can hold it for 5 minutes, I think he's a good bluffer, or else he's dead. Then I go up and give him a kick in the backside, you know, and he shakes all over it. Well, then I get a hold of trees, and I get right up on the bear, and I walk on his hips, and then on his flank, and then when I step on his ribs, he says, "Ah!" He's dead, but I squeeze the wind out of him, you know, and it makes him growl, as I tell you. Well, that kind of starts me again, but I know he's dead. So I take him by the ears and turn his head up to look at him, you know, and there's a pool of blood, like, you know, a clot of blood on the ground. Well, you know, that's the way I killed that bear, and that's, must be 15 years ago, and you know he's been dead ever since. Well, but, mister, I'm telling you that when they take a hold of you, it's bad enough, but when they let go quick, that starts me, and I can't get over it for 5 minutes. That's the trouble. I don't mind them taking a hold of me, but I hate to have them let go the way they do. It's a bear hold, you know, and it's a bear let go, and you can't understand it until you get it, and it don't set good with me at all. Of course, maybe it's better he should let go than to hang on. But that's what gets me. Well, of course, I had the bear, and there was a big trap on him. Well, I talked to him. In fact, before I shot him, when he stood up on his hind feet and growled, I says, where'd you get that trap? And he said, oh! I says, don't you know it's against the law to catch a bear in a trap? He says, wow! So I shot him. And he didn't get a bear in a trap after that. That was the last time.
I see.
Well, that's the way to fix bear, mister. So I took a knife that I had, and I just rolled him on his back. I took the trap off his foot and threw it aside, and I ripped him, you know, from one end to the other. Yeah, well, the bear was on his back, and I just went at him with the knife, as usual, and I just started the skin on his legs and cut off them big fingers, you know, the phalanges, and left the toenails in the hide, and I just ripped it down to his knee, and I went at his hind legs in the same way, and I pulled the cords out, and I went and got a stick and put through his hind legs, you know, and I tried to lift him, but I couldn't lift him. But I got about half of him off the ground and jumped him on a big notch, you know, on a birch. Well, then I pulled the hide off from him, and then I was curious. I opened him up, and I thought I was quite a doctor, and I thought I knew what was the kidneys and what was the liver and what was the blood and so forth. Well, I held an examination of my own there, and his kidneys was all in little lumps, you know. And I looked over, I spent about 2 hours with him, you know, examining him, so that if I found a sick bear or something, I might want to operate on him, you know, and I'd know just what to do. Well, I left him hanging there, and his forequarter was on the ground a good deal. I put a few spruce boughs under him so that he wouldn't catch too much topsoil and rotten leaves and so forth and so on. And I took a chunk of the liver and the hide, and I started for camp. Well, I got pretty near camp, and I stalled the skin in the woods. I stretched it on a pole, you know, that I had up between two trees, and I went to camp. Well, I had to feed the liver, and you know you should have come along a few days later, 2 or 3 days later, after I got some of that meat home. Oh, why, it was better than chicken, don't you know. Mm-hmm. I eat bear until bear grease run down my chin. Well, that's pretty near all there was to it. Of course, a big bear lasts a long time. And between time, I like to go fishing and get a few trout and so forth and so on. There's a lot of variety at Cold River. Of course, you ain't got many automobiles or gas stations, or you haven't got a 42nd Street or Times Square, but there's Little River 100 feet from the camp, and there's where I get my trout, you know, and so forth and so on. And there's where I go down with a cake of soap and wash my hands. And sometime I make a little fire right on the bank and roast my fish right there. But I want you to come up with to Cold River next season, Doctor, and have a bear hunt with me.
I'd like to. Yeah.
Oh, it would be fine. Well, to
good.
make sure and double sure, we'll set a trap like this, see? And then when we overtake him, we'll be boss, and we'll teach that bear how we hunt bear.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you
All
very
right,
much.
that's a
Noah.
bargain.
Thank you very much.
All right, Doctor.